if you're just joining us for the first time, if we're just meeting you, CDTC, the Continental Divide Trail Coalition, is a nonprofit dedicated to the completion, protection, and promotion of the Continental Divide National Scenic Trail. As a staff, we're spread across 5 Divide states and headquartered in Golden, Colorado. And the purpose of these sessions is to provide information for CDT hikers, share tips for traveling through the Continental Divide landscape, and help connect to the CDT community. So following the presentation, you will have the chance to submit your questions for a Q&A. You can do that in the chat, in the Q&A feature, in the webinar, or you can hold your questions till the end. If you want to ask your question aloud, we're happy to unmute you. Just know that questions will be answered in the order they are received. Any questions we're not able to answer during the Q&A period, we will follow up with otherwise. We'll also be following up with resources from the webinar and the recording so that you can go back, reference, and have additional resources available after. So thank you again, and I'm going to hand it off to Teresa Martinez.
Thanks, Audra. Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Teresa Martinez, and I'm the Privileged Executive Director of the Continental Divide Trail Coalition. Excuse me. Tonight I'm calling in, or I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico, on the homelands of the Tiwa people and Hickory Apache. And on behalf of our entire staff and board, I'd like to welcome all of you tonight to the first ever of our webinar series ever. So you're a part of history tonight. Welcome, and thanks for making it such a successful one already. So just a little bit more about us at CDTC. We do see the trail as more than just that 18 to 24 inch tread that you're walking on or riding on. For us, it is a connector of communities, cultures, and landscapes. It spans 3,100 miles along the Continental Divide. It also happens to be the major watershed of the North American continent. It's kind of a big deal. And along with providing water to over 180 million people, it holds history, traditions, heritages, and connections of the communities along its spine. It is truly a gift to be walking and experiencing this trail in the way that you will be able to this coming trail season. And our goal at CDTC is to steward the trail and to nurture, strengthen, and honor relationships with the communities who are connected to the Divide, not just the CDT, and honor all of those who've been connected to it way before Congress designated it as a National Scenic Trail. The CDT experience, we believe, is one that greatly has the potential to affect our hearts, bodies, minds, and souls. And we hope the CDT provides everyone an opportunity for inspiration to work together to learn from the land, gain its understanding of its spirit, so collectively we all gain understanding and knowledge of the people and places it connects. It's in this spirit that we wish to acknowledge that the lands on which the 3,100 miles CDT traverses are the unceded lands and territories of Indigenous people, tribal nations, sovereigns, and traditional land grant communities. We recognize the original stewards of these lands are Indigenous people, tribal nations, and sovereigns who have called them home for millennia and still call them home today. We share our gratitude and appreciation for those whose homelands the trail resides on, and to recognize our deepest respect for the ongoing dedication that all Indigenous people, tribal nations, and sovereigns and land grant communities have and continue to provide the lands and waters the trail connects. We accept the responsibility to combat the erasure of their histories, presence, and connection to the lands along the CDT. So please join us in this acknowledgement so that we can build a future with more understanding and knowledge of the people and places the trail brings together, and the longstanding history that has brought us to reside on the land we are on, even where you're zooming in from tonight, and to better understand our place within the history, its present, and its future. As we heal these relationships with the past, present, and future Indigenous people, tribal nations, and sovereigns, and land grant communities, we wish to acknowledge and amplify their contributions and leadership in the stewardship of the CDT. And we welcome, acknowledge, and honor all people and all people's histories for their contributions to the trail, its surrounding landscapes that help enrich the experience all of us have with the CDT. So thank you for helping us acknowledge these connections. And I hope as you hike, or I'm assuming all of you are hikers, but maybe not all of you are, but as you travel along the CDT this season, think about you're now a part of its history as much as it's a part of yours. And it truly is a gift. And with that, let's go to the next slide and get started. So I have the pleasure of just kind of introducing the CDT to many of you. Maybe a lot of you have already met it or met her or him or they, them. I don't know that they have a pronoun. But it is helpful to think about the CDT and its sort of large expansiveness. And so the CDT does traverse across 5 states: New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, which it straddles the border between Montana and Idaho. It was established in 1978 by Congress, and it connects 20 national forests, 25 wilderness areas, 13 BLM resource areas, and 4 units of the National Park Service. And 3 of those units are legacy parks: Glacier National Park, Yellowstone National Park, and Rocky Mountain National Park. It is officially, in our words, 3,100 miles from Mexico to Canada, but maybe not all of you will hike that long, because the trail is really unique in that it is different from, say, the Appalachian Trail or Pacific Crest Trail, that it really is your own adventure to create. Part of that is because of the nature of the divide. The CDT from any given year could have a high snowpack, face severe wildfire or even flood that requires significant route alterations. You may choose to do additional routes, alternate routes that take you through different parts of the Rocky Mountains and divides landscapes. So we like to say the trail is 3,100 miles, although you may have a different experience, and I think that is unique. What also makes this trail different, I will share, is that every decision you make along the trail is a consequence. There's less margin of error that you have to be aware of. I always share that many years ago, we were working with an individual who was a Sherpa. His name is Pem Sherpa, and he and his wife got married at the summit of Mount Everest. She's also a Sherpa and summited Everest I don't know how many times. And I once asked Pem, he was through hiking the CDT or section hiking the CDT over a period of 4 years with another individual. And I asked him, which is harder, Mount Everest or the CDT? And he looked at me and he said, most definitely the CDT. And I was like, really? Like Everest, top of the world, all the things? And Pam said, no, what's different about the CDT is when you're on Everest, every single footstep is calculated. They tell you where to hike, they tell you where to step, every decision is made for you. But on the CDT, every footstep requires a decision. Doesn't mean you're gonna peril in some craziness, but every step does have a consequence. And I think that is the mindset that requires, when you come to the CDT, when you come to adventure, whether it's on a day hike, a section hike, or a long attempt of a through hike, is that you need to be able to plan to be adaptable, remain and have perseverance, have a lot of patience, and then come with a sense of humility. And that is what allows you then to remain in that decision space of really just appreciating where you are, and that there isn't a blaze every single other tree. You are going to have to do some route finding. You are going to have to make some decisions around weather, environmental conditions, maybe even bear closures. So it does require a little bit more flexibility, but also as much planning as you can have to be flexible. And then really utilizing your resources to make sure that you have as much information as you can to be in a good space to make good decisions. So we also always encourage, along with a far out kind of guide, to have some maps and have some resources that give you more flexibility when you're in the moment. A little bit more just about the CDTC. We were founded in 2012. We are the lead national partner working with the Forest Service and the cooperative stewardship of the Continental Divide National Scenic Trail. We also work with the National Park Service and Bureau of Land Management. And ultimately, we're here as a resource for anybody who wishes to connect to the Continental Divide. And so with the team here tonight, anytime you reach out to our office, we will help you find the information you need, locate resources you might not already have, and in general, try to be of service as much as possible as we can to you so that you can remain adaptable, have that sense of perseverance and patience, and approach the CDT with humility. So thanks for joining us tonight. I'm going to turn it over, I'm not sure to who, Danny? And I hope you all enjoy the rest of this webinar.
Thanks, Teresa, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Danny Knoll, he, him. I'm the administrative assistant here at the CDTC, and I help manage the Southern Terminus shuttle. And so that's where we're going to kind of start our journey tonight, and that's where maybe many of you will be starting your hikes or maybe ending your hikes this upcoming season. So the Southern Terminus is on the American-Mexican border. It's the closest town is Hachita, New Mexico. It's roughly 30 miles south of Hachita. It is very difficult to access, and that's really why we provide this service. It's on BLM land, and there is a road that gets to the monument. However, the road can be really rough. It's not regularly maintained, so we do caution anyone that wants to drive themselves out there. You certainly can, but just make sure that you have an adequate vehicle, high clearance, good off-road tires, four-wheel drive, and also just keep in mind if you get stuck out there, it's a place that will be very difficult to get your vehicle towed. So keep that in mind. But we do provide this shuttle service, and we really provide it during the peak season of hiking season. So in the springtime, that's going to be this year from March 29th to May 14th. And then in the fall, it will be towards the end of October through November. If you want to access the Southern Terminus outside of these times, we often get those requests, and just reach out to us and we will put you in touch with the local driver down there that can safely get you to the border. So if you're planning a section hike or something like that, or want to finish up a hike, we certainly want to help you. The shuttle will run daily during peak season, and it's going to leave Lordsburg. Lordsburg is really the closest town that you can get to by public transportation. You can take Amtrak from like Tucson or El Paso to get to Lordsburg, so it's really convenient. And it's roughly a 3-hour drive from Lordsburg to the monument or vice versa. We will also pick up people from the monument and drive them to Lordsburg. So if you want to hike south or that is your plan all along, that is an option for you. Included in the shuttle is water caching service, and we're going to talk about that. Dan Carter's going to talk about our water cache boxes down there more in depth shortly. So that is included in the price. Also, when you finish your hike, if you complete the entire CDT, reach out to us and you can apply for a completion certificate. This is usually $10, but if you take our shuttle, it'll be free to you. And you also will receive a free membership to the CDTC, and we're going to talk more about those benefits later on. All right, one thing that you will get when you take the shuttle, and this is very new this year, and you may recognize something similar, maybe if you have experience with the Appalachian Trail or Pacific Crest Trail, are hiker hang tags. So this is just a way to show that you are a CDT hiker. It's a way to show that you're pledged to protect the CDT, and it's just a fun memento and souvenir to take along with you during your journey and maybe keep for many years after. So anyone that signs up for our Southern Terminus shuttle will receive one of these when you take the shuttle. If you didn't take the shuttle or you are maybe southbounding and want one sooner, all you need to do is register your hike on our website, and then you're eligible to receive one of these. So there's 2 locations that you can get these. One is from our shuttle driver. So again, if you're taking our shuttle, one will be given to you day of your ride. But if you're taking like a different service or you're getting yourself down there, you can still get these. Just make sure that you've registered your hike with us, and then you just show proof that you registered your hike. We'll send you a confirmation email, and all you need to do is just keep that email, save it to your phone, or you can even print it out. Just show us that you registered your hike, and then you'll get a hang tag. They're also going to be distributed in Glacier National Park, and those locations are listed here on the screen. When you get your permit for Glacier National Park, just say that you're a CDT hiker, and again, show that proof that you registered your hike, and they will give you one. Please be patient and understanding if a location doesn't have a hang tag. This is new for us this year. There should be plenty for everyone, but yeah, they could potentially run out or just not have them at that time. If you really want a hang tag and you're struggling to get one, just reach out to us, just email our info box, and we'll do our best to get you a hang tag. There's also some rumors that some businesses may be giving out some discounts this year for hikers that have hang tags and other things like that. There also might be a couple surprise locations that if you run into a CDTC staff member, you might be able to find one along the trail as well. And I'll pass it over to Dan Carter.
Good evening. My name's Dan Carter. He, him pronouns, possum on the trails. And I'm the Trail and Lands Conservation Program Manager and based down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, near the Bootheel. And yeah, tonight I'm talking about some water. If you're not, especially if you're not from the desert, water down here in the Bootheel can be a little bit of a an unsure subject, anxiety inducing at times. But to alleviate some of that, there are 5 water cache boxes located in the Bootheel. So this is south of Lordsburg. So about the first 85 miles, there are 5 water cache boxes. And the locations of these boxes are within the website, the map set, and also on the Far Out app. And these are placed down there for the benefit of the trail users. And they're for public use, but please only take the water that is allocated for you. And so, as Danny mentioned, if you're taking the shuttle, that includes water cache services as well. The drivers and other folks down there will cache water for you in the box. And if you're not taking the shuttle, you're going to get to the southern terminus some other way. You're going to be hiking down there, maybe a section or something, and you would like water cache. You can also do that as a $15 per person fee if you're not taking the shuttle. So it is available. And they're also available for just public use. They're there on the trail. So if you put your own water in there, just make sure that you label it with your name, expected date that you're going to be using it, and yeah, you can put it in there. You can cache your own water as well. Some things to think to be mindful of near the cache boxes. They provide really great shade, and they're typically on little concrete pads, so they're nice and cool for critters to hang out in. So if you're near the cache box, just be mindful there could be snakes or rodents or spiders or anything like that, like living underneath the cache box. So approach cautiously. Again, and don't leave trash in the boxes. Pack out all your trash, leave no trace, all those good things. So don't leave trash in the boxes. And please don't sit on the water containers themselves. You'll probably hear this from our shuttle drivers as well, but it damages the containers, and then we have to, it's a whole thing. Water is very precious out in the desert, so you want to take care of all the water resources we have and the containers that they come in. And again, if you're going to, this water is cached for the hikers that have planned this. So if you haven't cached water, please don't take water that you haven't already put in there or that you arrange for someone to put in there for you. I think sometimes there are water that's available and it will be labeled as such if it's not spoken for. Or also if you cache your own water, put that date so people know that you've taken it or not. So if you don't take the water and it's left over, other folks know that they're not taking it from you. So that's the most reliable source of water down in the Bootheel is the cached water. And if at all possible, that's your best bet is to rely on that and plan accordingly with full days worth of water carrying. There are ranch waters throughout the Bootheel, and they consist of anywhere from a mud patch to a cattle trough to a tank to just random water caches that people put out there. But just think of those ranch waters as backup for emergency purposes and plan your water caches accordingly. People make their living down here, grazing livestock, wildlife use these. Some of these come from private wells, and there's private infrastructure, plumbing and such that goes into getting that water to this actual trough. So, and it could just be a really dry year, so it's not always reliable. So just plan accordingly. Use it as an emergency backup and bank on the caches. And again, to minimize the impact to the livestock and the wildlife, so you're not running them off from this precious resource, please don't camp near the water sources. Again, obey the signs As you can see some signs here, some of the ranchers have put up. Be respectful of infrastructure. Don't mess with the float valves that are inside of the tank. Make sure you turn off the water valves if you use it to get water, like from the tank below. And just leave the water valves and stuff alone, because sometimes this is running from a private well, and it can mess up their whole system if you're turning off valves that don't need to be turned off. And again, treat this water like you normally would with a Sawyer squeeze or whatever your treatment source is, because it might not be very clean at the source. And then again, if you're going to set out your own water containers, please secure those water containers and have a plan to pick up the empty bottles. Or pack those out, or please come back and get them later so they're not blowing across the desert. And yeah, and then again, those water, and for this year, we're working on getting our water report website updated. Working with Sawyer and Far Out, we'll have a new website with that water report information. It's not up yet, but you'll know as soon as it is available. We'll have that out to everybody.
Thanks, Dan. I think I'm up next. If we can get the next slide. All right. So we are going to jump 3,000 miles up north to the northern Termini. Termini, because there's actually two. There's two officially designated terminuses. So the first one I'll talk about is at Waterton. So Waterton is on the west side in Glacier National Park. And these are really unique terminuses or termini, because you can actually, they're both official border crossings when they're in season. So typically that's going to be mid-May through September. After that, it shuts down for the season and you no longer can legally cross here. So at Waterton, let's say you are southbound and you're starting in Canada. So the closest town is actually the town of Waterton. I believe it's about 4 miles north of the actual border. That's really going to be your best bet and your last chance to report your entry. So if you're traveling and you're going to go on foot into the United States, you need to report your entry before leaving Waterton, because you're likely not going to have cell service after that. So you can download, it's called the CBP Roam app. It's a Border Protections app. And you use that in conjunction with your passport or your passport card in order to travel into the United States. So you have to do that while they are open, and that's 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Like I said, about mid-May through September to report your entry. And once they grant you access, then you can start hiking south. Okay. If you're northbound, so if you're in Glacier National Park in the United States and you want to hike into Canada and then into Waterton, you simply have to call the number on the screen here, and that's the Canadian Border Info Services once you cross the border. So you can actually see the picture on the left-hand side of the screen here. That's the border at Waterton. The tricky thing is there's no cell reception here. So they actually will allow you to hike into Waterton, that 4 miles, and then you can call that number on your cell phone, or if you don't have reception or you don't carry a cell phone, you can use the phones at the visitor center in Waterton. Now, it's a case-by-case basis of whether or not Canadian Border Services will allow you to stay in Canada. And I don't know what they would do if they denied you at that point. You'd probably have to hike back, I would imagine. They may not let you in if you have like a criminal record. We even heard reports of people that had DUIs not being allowed to use this border crossing in that manner. So if you have any questions about that, or you're worried if they're going to let you in or not, call that number on the screen. They're very helpful, and they'll probably just give you better information of whether or not to do that. And just jumping back to if you're going southbound, the Border Patrol wanted me to mention, they're going to ask you to make sure you're not carrying over $10,000 in cash. They won't let you cross with that. Also, certain foods like citruses, Tomatoes, raw poultry, you can't cross the border with. If they're dried goods, that's okay, but just keep that in mind. I guess there's a lot of confusion around that. And then Chief Mountain. Chief Mountain, as you can see in this picture, is a road. It's a vehicle crossing. The route is on the east side of the divide, and it typically stays lower. So this is a really good option if you don't have a passport or you don't want to deal with the logistics involved with crossing an international border. This is a good option for you. That route stays a lot lower in elevation, and there's a couple of passes that you don't have to deal with. Also keep in mind that this is only open mid-May through September 30th. Next slide. All right, so now we're going to talk about permits. This is a lot of information, and it's going to come at you quick. So you really don't need a permit to hike the CDT other than 4 locations. And we're going to start with Glacier, and these are the most complex typically to get. So you have to, when you're in Glacier National Park, if you're staying overnight, you have to stay in a designated campsite and you have to have a permit. There's 2 ways you can get a permit. One is advanced reservations, and that's done online through recreation.gov. This year, they're having a lottery starting March 15th at midnight. So you can go on rec.gov and try to get your permits. The tricky part is you have to know exactly the day and site that you're staying at. So this might not be a good option if you're northbound. If you're southbound, it might be worth trying to get a lottery because you probably have a better idea of when you're going to start. The other thing to note is with these advanced permits, you can only do 16 miles in between campsites. The more commonly used option is the walk-in permits, and Glacier Park will hold 30% of their total backcountry permits for walk-ups. So you need to get one at the following locations in person. The most convenient for most CDT hikers is that 2 Medicine Ranger Station. And just so you all are aware, at this time, it's unknown if they're going to be staffed this year. So we will certainly keep you updated as soon as the park knows. We will let you know. But you may have to use one of these other, like St. Mary's would be a good option, or Many Glacier might be good options to get your walk-in permits. These can be difficult to obtain. Not only are you going to be competing with other thru hikers, but you're going to be competing with thousands of other people that just want to experience Glacier for a week or a couple of days. It's a very popular park to go backcountry camping. So just please be patient. Realize it may take you a couple of days to get a permit. But I listed here some good practices. At any one of these locations, arrive early. Most of them open at 8 a.m. I would arrive at like 7 a.m. and get in line early. You can hopefully get a permit that day or the next day. So you can get a permit for a couple of days in advance. So you might be able to score a permit for the next day, and then you can just kind of hang out, maybe go back to East Glacier, get your gear ready, anything like that to get a permit. Also group together. If there's other CDT thru hikers there, they will put 4 people per permit, and that will really help your chances. There's also 2 front country sites called Many Glacier and 2 Medicine. These are very big, like 100 site plus sites for car camping, but they also have sites designated for tents. So the CDT goes by both of these locations. So that's a really good way to utilize getting through the park. And I'll have a backup plan. If you're struggling to get a permit, keep trying. I haven't really heard of anyone that hasn't tried it for 2 or 3 days to finally get one. You can even reach out to us, reach out to me. I have several plans. You can do Glacier just by day hiking. There's several roads and shuttles available. So if you had to come up with another plan, don't get too discouraged. There's ways around it. With that in mind, though, follow the rules. They're going to increase patrols this year. So if you're trying to stealth camp, avoid getting a permit. You could get heavily fined, and we certainly want to avoid that. Okay, so that was the hardest permit, or the most complex. This one is probably the easiest. In the map in the bottom left corner, It's kind of hard to see, but to the left of that diagonal line is Glacier National Park, and to the right is the Blackfeet Reservation. In the bottom corner, that is East Glacier. So that red line is the CDT. So everything to the right of that diagonal line is the Blackfeet Reservation, and you have to have a permit to hike, day use, or overnight use. Luckily, it's really easy to obtain. Starting April 1st, go to their website and you can get a permit. You need one permit per person. But then that is good for the entire year until March 31st, 2025. All you need to do is just have it. Have it on you, have it on your phone, print out a physical copy. You don't need to let them know when you're going to be there. You just need to have it valid. And that's all you need. So it's super easy to get. Starting April 1st, you can just go to their website and then you don't need to worry about it for your hike. So that was an easy one. Yellowstone. So Yellowstone, like Glacier, you have to stay in designated sites. It typically is easier to get a permit in Yellowstone because if you go to their website, they will say you cannot call, you have to book online or go in person, but they make an exception for CDT hikers. So when you call that number that's on the screen, that's their central permit office, up to 2 days before you plan to arrive in the park. And if they have availability, they can book up as well. So have a backup plan, have backup sites that you may want to use. But then they will issue your permit over the phone. You'll make a payment over the phone, and then they'll email you the permit. So you never actually have to go and get a physical permit. They will just email it to you and make it really easy for CDT hikers. You can do walk-up permits at their permit offices in the park if you choose to, but they really recommend that CDT hikers take advantage of this service that they're providing by calling that number. All right, next, Rocky Mountain National Park. So these have to go through recreation.gov, and you have to do it at least 3 days prior to your visit. So you can't make a permit the day that you arrive or make a reservation the day you arrive. One thing that's unique is to overnight camp in the park, you have to have a hard-sided certified bear canister. So you can get these in Grand Lake. You can rent them from the outfitter there. Or if you already are carrying one, that makes it really easy. What is kind of been tricky in the last couple of years is oftentimes, and you can see in the bottom left-hand screen, that's the trail through the park. This is actually, there's 2 official routes. So the one on the right side that goes to the east, that is a longer route, and that's about 27 miles through the park. In the past, many hikers have just decided to do this in a day or take that cutoff trail in a day, which is about 4 miles, and then just get out of the park and camp in the national forest where you no longer need a permit. There was a fire a few years ago, though, and so now they're limiting this trail to only overnight access. You have to have a permit to use the trail. We continuously are checking with Rocky Mountain to see if this is going to change. We anticipate that it will at some point. We just don't know when that's going to be. So keep checking with us if this changes. Otherwise, to hike in Rocky Mountain National Park, you will have to get an overnight permit. Some hikers have opted to just take the road, which you certainly can do. It's not the longest road walk. It's about 5 miles. But just be aware that this year, it may be just a little difficult. You may have to get an overnight permit if you want to hike in the park. All right, and I'll pass it over to L. Fisher.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. Hi, everyone, and thank you all again for joining us tonight. I'm L. Fisher. I'm the Trail Policy Manager at CDTC, based up on the lands of the Blackfeet in Helena, Montana. I'm here to talk about alternates and reroutes. First, a bit on alternates. So as a congressionally designated federal resource, the official CDT route and all official alternates for the CDT are determined by the federal land management agencies like the Park Service, Forest Service, and Bureau of Land Management. So the purpose for this, for having an official route, is to really promote safe and informed travel on the CDT, sustainable use and impacts of sensitive natural, cultural, and historic resources, and also to align visitor management with land managers, private landowners, and other trail users. So the CDT Coalition does not own or have jurisdiction of the lands through which the CDT travels, so we follow the lead of the federal land managers. So when it comes to the alternates, there are two official CDT alternates endorsed by the federal agencies. The first is the Chief Mountain alternate in Glacier National Park, and the second is what I'll call the Tonahuctu Creek connector loop through Rocky Mountain National Park. That's not an official name, but that's what we're going to call it for tonight. As Danny already mentioned, the Chief Mountain alternate starts and ends at the Canadian border on the eastern side of Glacier National Park, and is the alternate to the northern terminus if the intermountain region of the park is not accessible due to snow or other unforeseen conditions. The alternate is a lower route, so if snow is a concern, and it's one that some people might consider logistically easier and still really scenic. You know, it is still through Glacier National Park. The Tonahuctu Creek alternate in Rocky Mountain National Park is a choice between the official route that is kind of shorter and will get you through that national park a little quicker, and the alternate is longer but takes you through a loop through that really highly scenic national park. So you know, definitely worth that journey as well. But if you are considering that longer route, definitely take into consideration what Danny said kind of about permits and reservations and things like that moving through that park. So just as a reminder, as you consider travel on CDT, starting planning for your hiking your own hike, really, and all the available alternates along to get you from Montana to New Mexico, just always remember to recreate responsibly. And then real quick, just another factor to consider when planning for your time on CDT are those reroutes. So reroutes are determined by changing conditions on the ground. And you will likely find yourself encountering closures and reroutes on the CDT this year. We are in the Rocky Mountain West. There are things like wildfires, extreme weather events, and things like bear closures that are a reality. And those things can alter trail conditions and impact your journey. So definitely be prepared to adapt on the CDT. When it does come to closures and reroutes, CDTC does work really closely with and follows the lead of agencies and when relevant, law enforcement. So we will post information concerning reroutes on our closures and alerts page as soon as we hear from the land management partners or other authority. While our website is a really great resource, the land managers with jurisdiction over that section of the trail are really the experts. So places like Forest Service websites and checking those websites or reaching out to learn more about on the ground conditions directly with those land managers can really always help to ensure that you're prepared with the most up-to-date information for your journey. And with that, I will turn it back over to Danny.
All right, thanks, Elle. Yeah, so I want to leave lots of time for the questions. So I'll go through this quickly. You can access all of these resources, well, not all, but on websites. A lot of them are on our website. Most hikers these days, we're certainly in the digital age, are using Far Out. Far Out is an application on your phone that utilizes your phone's GPS to pinpoint your location and put you on the map. The beauty of Far Out is there are waypoints along the trail, so a water source or a trail junction. If you tap that, you can leave a comment, and those comments really turn into crowdsourced real-time updates. So you can get updates from other people about trail conditions, about water sources. So it's a really invaluable resource for that purpose. There's also the Hiker app, which is kind of similar to Far Out. We also offer map sets digitally on our website for free, or you can leave a donation if you feel inclined. If you're going to use these to print out, bear in mind each state, and there's 5 states, has 80+ pages. So you may want to take it to like a Kinko's or a printing service or even a library. It's just a lot of pages, a lot of ink. You can use the reduced files for that purpose. You don't need to download the geospatial, all that information if you're just printing them out. There's also that form in Avenza. Avenza is another app that you can download into your phone, and you can view those same maps just digitally on your phone. Our planning guide has just been updated and posted today, I believe. So check that out. If you already purchased one or downloaded it before, you can just go back onto our website. Again, this is a free resource. If you want to leave a donation, you can, but otherwise it's free. And you can download that with the newest updates. Not a lot has changed. We just updated some phone numbers and mileages and that sort of thing. Other maps, there's the Bear Creek surveys. That's, I believe, Jerry Brown's work. One of the first people that kind of mapped out the CDT. So that's available on bearcreeksurvey.com. Also consider these maps that we provide in the Far Out app are great. However, if there's a trail closure and on fire and you need to detour, having another resource like the Gaia GPS app is really good if you need to start getting off trail, finding different routes. So consider that. We see closures now every year. So it's very likely that you will run into a closure at some point. And as Elle mentioned, we try to get reroutes, but just keep in mind, so that's a really good resource, Gaia GPS. And finally, Jonathan Ley's maps are great as well. And his website is there and you can download those as well. And that's all I have.
All right, I'm up. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Murray. I'm the Director of Development here at CDTC. I'm calling in from Montana this evening. We did just want to go over real quickly. I did see a couple questions in the chat about this too, but just wanted to go over membership at CDTC. As Danny mentioned, for those of you who have or plan to purchase a ride on the CDTC shuttle, you will get an annual membership to CDTC. So just wanted to run over those, kind of what that means. The most important of which is just knowing that you're a really critical part of our work to protect and complete the trail. Our members strengthen our work and our influence with decision makers. And this influence is really important in us securing future resources for the trail as well. Couple other things we did want to just let you know of, because we found out that a lot of hikers had no idea they had these benefits. But many of our outdoor retail partners that we work with at CDTC do offer discounts to CDTC members. So if you have already signed up as a shuttle, and I think Danny, we confirmed this earlier, you should have already received your membership email, which has a link to where you can find your membership discounts. These are just a couple of them listed here. This is not a comprehensive list, and they also change throughout the year. So it's something that's pretty good to just check in on. But we do try to work to get a bunch of perks for our members just as a way to say thank you. You also get early bird registration to volunteer projects. That probably won't be happening for many of you this year, but maybe in the future. Invites to our events and a couple of other things there. If you are not taking the shuttle, but you're still interested in becoming a member, you can get all of the same benefits. So an annual membership to CDTC is $35 a year, or you can sign up as a monthly donor as well, if that is something that you prefer. So I think that is about it. It was pretty quick, but if you do have any questions, or if you're wondering if you are a member, if you're not sure or you need us to check, you can go ahead and email us that same email that I think we've dropped a few times, the info@continentaldividetrail.org, and we can confirm that, or if we need to resend you your link to access the discounts and that sort of stuff, then we can definitely do that. And that is it for me. I think I'm passing it to Liz.
Okay, I know you're all excited to get out there on the CDT by now, but let's elevate that excitement because it's time to talk about 2024 Trail Days. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Schmidt. I'm the Community and Outreach Program Manager for the CDT Coalition, and I reside on the lands of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho in Denver, Colorado. I manage our Gateway Community Program and work primarily with trail towns along the CDT. For those who might be unfamiliar, towns and counties that self-select to be designated as official CDT Gateway communities are friendly to trail users and really dedicated to the completion and protection of the trail. They often provide services, amenities, and information to visitors, contributing to local economies through tourism and sustainable practices. We have 21 designated gateway communities along the CDT, and we encourage everyone hiking along the trail to visit these towns and counties to connect closely with those that live and steward the CDT. One perk of visiting gateway communities is the different events geared towards thru hikers, including Trail Days, which is an event that we certainly look forward to every year. This year's Trail Days will take place April 19th through the 21st in Silver City, New Mexico, in partnership with Gila Earth Day. Silver City is our first designated gateway community, and this year marks its 10-year anniversary as such. So as you can imagine, we are very excited to celebrate with the community. This year is also a celebration of the Gila Wilderness Centennial. So at Trail Days, we will celebrate and elevate the awareness for history of the Gila Wilderness and share stories from those who reside and steward the land that you will all be journeying on at some point this year. Most of you, I'm guessing. So what is CDT Trail Days? It's a 3-day weekend extravaganza that really celebrates you all and the community. So it will begin on Friday, April 19th with a speaker series, a community culture and landscape speaker series, including an Indigenous leaders speaker panel, wolves in the Gila region with Warm Spring Apache wolf biologist Krista Beasley, a through hiking journey on the CDT through the Gila through the Black Range before the fire from seasoned through hiker Allgood, and more panelists to come. Friday evening, there will be a party at the Little Toad Creek and Distillery in town with raffle prizes, music, and a buffet for through hikers, which I know will be the most exciting part of that evening. Saturday the 20th, there will be a festival and outdoor gear expo in the local town park. There will be local performers, food, family-friendly activities with local nonprofits, gear vendors, and repair. We'll also have time for a family photo, which is what I'm calling it, of those hikers passing through, similar to the photo that you saw on the last slide. And then Sunday, we round out the weekend with locally led community hikes in town and around the area to learn more about Silver City and a chance to hike in the Gila, as if you're not hiking enough already. But please spread the word for those who might not be through hiking and may want to do something locally led. Those through hiking during Trail Days will have the opportunity to camp in town for the weekend free of charge at the local Silver City Waterworks site. The old Silver City Waterworks site has been transformed into this incredible community space, and they're opening up for the second year in a row for through hikers over the weekend, so that folks are able to stay and really enjoy a full weekend in Silver City and enjoy all of what Trail Days has to offer. Space is limited for camping at the Waterworks site, so if you're interested in registering for camping for space this weekend, be sure to check out the link listed here, and you're able to register online, like I said, free of charge. So with that, I hope you're able to join us and celebrate the kickoff to trail season. And I believe it's time for questions.
Thanks, Liz. That was such a great send off to get us all excited about Trail Days. I just want to thank obviously all of our staff, a number of photo contributors, and Sarah Van Cleve, 2023 through hiker, who was instrumental in helping us get together these webinars, and also the updated version of the planning guide. You can now find the 4th edition of a digital version of the planning guide on the website, hot off the press. Just know that there is another revision coming out this fall. If you are hiking in the future, maybe you're doing sections, but there's a lot of good information in there, including a lot of the information that we covered here tonight. Speaking of that, you will be sent the recording of the webinar as soon as we can make it available, along with a lot of the phone numbers, links, the information, supplemental information that's been mentioned throughout the webinar. So just know that those backup resources are coming to you. There have been a lot of good questions already. We are also keeping track of your questions, and we will do our best to get all of the information that's been going through the chat out to folks as well. But right now, we are going to kick off our Q&A period. And Jordan is going to help us with that. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Jordan Williams, pronouns he, him. I'm the Colorado regional rep, and I was the one who was delegated to try to field these great questions. So I've tried to do my best to categorize them, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. I know we don't have that much time left, so we'll go through. A lot of them have been answered in the Q&A by our staff, so please refer to that, and I'll try to skip over some of those and get to some of the other ones maybe that we haven't answered more fully yet. So the first one, just backtracking a bit. Guinevere asked, since this is an El Nino year with low snow, wondering about if May start is reasonable. And does anyone have thoughts on that? Danny, would you like to take that one, or anyone else jump in on thoughts on start times?
Sure. This is the $1 million question. We're going to address this a little bit more on Thursday, but everyone should definitely go to postholer.com and study the SNOTEL historical graphs. This is a snow year, low year in Montana right now. It's closest to 2005. In 2005, the snow melt didn't melt until July. So we just really don't know. As much snow falls, just as important as how quickly that's going to melt. So we just can't say. Perhaps it will be early, but yeah, just keep an eye on that postholer.com resource. I check it every day.
Yeah, for sure. Time will tell. And then we had a couple questions about the launch of the CDT alerts and the Register Your Hike form launch. I think those were brought up at the town hall as well. I wasn't sure. We talked about hiker hang tags, so just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so those are now live. So if you do want to receive alerts, you can use that same form, the Register Your Hike form. There's a question if you want to receive alerts. We'll alert you if there's a known trail closure and where it is. So that is on the same form as Register Your Hike.
Awesome. And then Audra, we had a question about trail ambassadors. I know that was a new program that we were kind of relaunching.
Yeah, we have 4 trail ambassadors that will be introducing very soon to the community. Some of them might be on. Feel free to say hello. But yeah, so we have a few trail ambassadors this year, and really that is focused on being ambassadors back to CDTC. And so those folks are going to be out helping us keep a read on the trail, bringing information back, sharing media, things like that. So definitely be on the lookout for the CDTC trail ambassadors, and yeah, maybe share a game of cards with them.
Awesome. Yeah, I noticed some more good questions popping up in the Q&A, so we'll try to get to a couple here that we did answer and get back to folks on others. We had a question about Garmin inReaches, and those do work in the southern Terminus area, so definitely can bring those. Had questions about the walk from Glacier to Waterton, and there's about 108 miles in Glacier, and approximately 41 to Waterton and 28 to Chief Mountain. That was a specific question we'll get to. We'll make sure to drop the websites for permits in terms of all the things for Rocky and the Blackfeet and the Northern Terminus as well. So those will all come out in the chat. We had a good question. Are there other parks or areas of bear containers required besides Rocky Mountain National Park? Danny, I know you've been working on this.
No, there's not any other place that it is required. In Glacier and Yellowstone, you have to use their cable systems, which are great, or you could have a bear can. But most of the CDT north of New Mexico, there are requirements to hang or have a certified bear resistant canister. So it's kind of your choice of whether you'd rather be hanging or have a bear canister. We're starting to see a lot more hikers take bear cans the entire way. It's just logistically a lot easier. You don't need to send yourself one, and then you don't have to deal with hanging a bear hang every single night. So we're starting to see that more commonly.
I do want to plug webinar 2 on Thursday. where we are going to go into a lot more of this stuff about bears, wildlife, emergencies, weather, lots of that kind of stuff. So really want to plug the second half of this information series for more discussion about bears.
Yeah, thanks, Audrey. That's a good point. Yeah, that would be great to join. Did have a question about Rocky. Is unregistered dispersed camping prohibited anywhere south of Rocky? So directly south of Rocky is the town of Grand Lake, and there's tons of amazing places to stay in Grand Lake, even though it's a very small gateway community. And south of there, it's a really high trafficked area, and there would be places, but it's a bit challenging with the Indian Peaks Wilderness so close by, and there's permits for that too. So good question on that. It's a tricky area in the realm, but we definitely love Grand Lake.
And thanks for mentioning that, Jordan. That's one permit I did not mention. It was Indian Peaks Wilderness. Most hikers do not stay overnight here, but if you do plan to stay overnight in the wilderness where the trail kind of weaves in and out for a few sections, you do need a permit if you're staying overnight. Again, most hikers choose not to stay overnight there to avoid the permit, but just know that the permit is required.
For sure, yeah. We got one more question. Let's go to the Q&A here real quick. If we can grab one more from there, because I know a couple popped up. We answered those. As a Sobo, when does the snow typically melt out in the Wind River Range? That's a good question.
That I don't personally know. I think it's similar to the Rocky, Colorado. But again, we'll address kind of where to find those resources next week. There is a question here I want to address about Sobos and water caching for the shuttle service. So I assume that's the southern terminus. And yes, if you're a southbounder and you're going to take the shuttle, we will either have a shuttle service or put you in touch with a local driver, and they will cache water for you as part of that. So yeah, know that will be part of that.
Hey, and Danny, I was just going to respond to the question about the Wind Rivers. Usually mid-July is really usually the earliest you'll have consistent travelability on the actual CDT or even on the high routes. It just depends on the snowpack. Last year was probably later July. You just have to look at SnowTel, look for comments in Guthook or in Far Out Guides, Atlas Guides, and just, I mean, it's hard to know. We could get a snow in May and June, so it's just hard to know.
Yeah, and then real quickly, I'll just mention for search and rescue, COSAR, Colorado Search and Rescue has a great option there for that. So definitely recommend looking into those search and rescue cards in each state. But specifically, I know Colorado has a great one. And Chama is a great town to send snow gear if you're hiking northbound. I don't know if anyone else from New Mexico has thoughts, but definitely Chama would be the place to be.
Yeah, Chama, and then you can send it back from either South Fork or Pagosa Springs, depending on where you end up. And I think even Chama is looking at, hopefully, we'll see if they can, I know they were rallying to try to figure out how they can help provide loaner gear. But you can check out on their community page or in the CDT. I think one of the Facebook pages might be Trail Hands or something like that. But or just call the visitor center and see if you can connect with someone who knows about that.
For sure. And then the last thing, we did have a lot of great just links and discussion in the chat, and we can try to definitely pull out those links that were shared by the community at large, because that was a request as well. So thanks everybody for tonight. We really appreciate all your questions. And I don't know if anyone else wants to take us out.
Well, I can't refuse being the last word, but no, I just want to say, like, this is the first time we've all done this, so we'd love to get some feedback from all y'all. What worked well, what would have been more information. You know, this is really, you're helping us support other people behind you, so we really appreciate your patience and grace, while also we'd love to learn from this experience. And so thank you for being a part of our first ever webinar. You know, I think the goal of this is also to ensure that you can connect to the trail in whichever way you want to, and know that it's it becomes a beautiful experience that will hopefully changes your life. And I think that's the goal, is that you stay safe, healthy, and that we build just we continue to build and strengthen this relationship, and with the divide, but also the community that cares so much about it and wishes to be out on it. So thanks for joining us tonight, and would welcome any feedback from all of you and help us keep getting better. Thanks so much.